What's going on, guys? Failed to listen, and this is my review for Tom Clancy's The Division. A short little history lesson with this game in a nutshell would be to say that I was dead wrong about what this game is. I actually think the reason I was wrong about it is probably also the reason many people came away disappointed and stopped playing so quickly after launch. I think a lot of people thought The Division is something it's not. This isn't GTA. This isn't an open world multiplayer game where you're just driving around and shooting people in the face. That's not what this is. That's actually really far from the truth. If you still have it in your head that The Division is, something like a GTA or a Saints Row and still haven't bought it, I would say don't buy The Division. So first up, as always, we talk about the visuals, and the visuals of The Division are absolutely amazing. I thought this game looked pretty damn good. I always have, but looking at the YouTube videos and even this review now will never really do it justice, and that's just a matter of fact. Given that we are once again playing the PC version of this game, there are some fantastic and very demanding options here if you've got the rig to run it. On high to ultra, at 60 FPS to 144 FPS, you are in for a treat, as it is truly one of the most impressive games, whether that's at 1080p, 1440p, and again, if you've got the rig to do it, 4K, 30 FPS, 60 FPS, if you can do it, this is one of the best. This is something special for sure. The Division is one of the best examples of the graphics and the very detailed environments being one of the reasons you keep playing. I'm not really all that familiar with New York City, but I've seen a number of films and different shows on TV throughout my many years here on Earth, and from where I'm sitting, they absolutely nailed it. They absolutely nailed the look and feel of this city. I mean, I'm not a New Yorker, but I think even though it's probably not a one-to-one, even some of those people playing this game can appreciate a lot of what you're seeing here. It's fantastic all around. The lighting, the textures, the awesome snow effects. Massive has probably created the best looking game with snow, pretty much anywhere.
Like, there's no logic behind it. Like, zero logic behind that shit.
It's the little things too, man. There's a lot of great attention to detail here and how the color of the snowfall will change based on the lighting in the surrounding area. Could be blue one moment, green the next, white of course, and even red in some cases. The Snowdrop engine was clearly designed to be something special, especially in terms of open world games, obviously. Another nice thing that I've noticed when it comes to attention to detail is at times when you're firing your gun for a good amount of time, you can actually see the barrel get hot with some smoke. It's just little things like that that help immerse you further in the experience. It's a fantastic looking game, and I'd easily put this in the top 5 best looking games of the generation. I hope they continue to improve this engine further, because it's really, I'm telling you guys, it's something special. You gotta play it to see for yourselves. Again, I'm sure this looks fantastic on YouTube, but you gotta see it for yourselves. Gameplay in The Division really hit me like a ton of bricks. Not only is it really fun to play, as every game should be, there are RPG elements, and the gameplay mechanics in general are just a lot deeper than I thought they would be for a game like this. Combat is just about as tight as you would expect from any great third-person game with shooting in it, and believe me, there is a lot of shooting in this game. The shooting and cover mechanics are some of the best and most responsive in all of gaming. Moving from cover to cover is as simple as looking in one direction and holding your respective key or button, and you're there. As much time as you spend shooting in this game, if you end up liking it as much as I do, you'll likely spend an equal amount of time in your menu. The system is that deep. It is very, very deep. There's tons of weapons and different gear to choose from, and I don't want to say that there's really one better than the other type of play style here. You can have tons of different builds, some that benefit solo play a lot more for you and your friends, and some builds that will benefit you in the Dark Zone. And just to dig into the Dark Zone a little bit, it is an experience that is different from everything else in the game. Not only does it look more run down than some of the areas from the surrounding parts of the city, it's just a different world in general. So if you're willing to face the threat of a lot more difficult AI, there's going to be a lot, and I mean a lot, more elites when it comes to AI in the Dark Zone, and you obviously will have the threat of other players, then it's absolutely worth it. If the risk is higher, then the reward should be higher, and that's exactly what you're getting in the Dark Zone. I feel it's totally worth it if you're willing to risk every item you've picked up and risk that against other players, whether that means you're 50 yards from the extraction and maybe you get sniped out, they take your things. Hey, sometimes you just have to eat that. Or maybe you're 10 yards away from the extraction, someone sneaks up from behind, SMG, boom, bam, you're done, that's it, you lose, hold that L. Some might say, man, how did I die so quickly? Some people in the Dark Zone just have that much better gear than you do. So yeah, it's especially worth it if you can find 2 or 3 friends to do it with you, and they're also really geared out to the max. I mean, you really gotta have some of the better gear in the Dark Zone. You can look at, if you're still confused, you can look at the Dark Zone as more of a PvP type of an area, like in an MMO.
JFL or LDF, whatever it's called.
Rogues, run, 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 run. Back, 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 run.
Let's get the fuck out of here.
Although a lot of the loot you find in the Dark Zone can be found playing alone or with friends during main and side missions, you get a lot more of the good stuff, and you get it a lot more quickly by risking your time in the Dark Zone. Just seeing that little drop down that you get when it comes to a successful extraction is one of the most satisfying things in all of gaming. It puts a smile on my face every time. Actually, just seeing some of the best loot drop or hearing that sound in general is super satisfying.
Get fucking wrecked.
The loot is divided into different categories that are very easy to understand. Your green and blue items are sort of your average gear and weapons that you'll probably look to get rid of as soon as possible, and your purple items are likely what you're going to go for most until your character level is 30, in which you'll look for a different type of green, which is sort of your gear sets that have their own perks and their own abilities, as well as the gold, or maybe it's orange, gold, orange. They're really awesome. Those are the best items in the game. You guys know what I'm talking about. Speaking of your character level, I really wouldn't worry about how much damage you're able to output until you hit 30, because things get so much more interesting once you've hit that max character level at 30. Then you get what's known as a gear level, and this is determined by the level of the gear itself, the stats on the gear, and how well done your build is in general. It wasn't until I hit level 30 that I realized just how deep this game is and how underleveled you can be in certain areas of the game, and in particular the Dark Zone, if your gear isn't tweaked properly. When I first started the game, I was just sort of throwing out my little awesome turret that you can get to engage the enemies, and I would go to work on them from a distance. Now I'm at a point where I'm much more aware of my surroundings, and the harder difficulty settings will challenge you in ways that I just didn't think possible. It's not perfect. Occasionally the AI shows signs of being excellent, and others they just run out of cover and stand in the open like, hey, free kills right here, motherfucker. I can't say that the AI making very poor decisions at times broke the game or broke the immersion in some way or other things like that. The gameplay, the RPG elements to me are very addictive, and it's evident that I truly feel that way because I've spent over 80 hours in this beast of a game. If you've played a lot of other third-person games with good cover mechanics, good shooting, I feel like this should be very easy to pick up and play. I think if there was one knock to the gameplay that I would hand out, it's the customization. There's actually a lot you can do in terms of color options, but walking around and seeing other players in this game just feels very samey at times. There needed to be more gear on top of the gear in the Division, and it just doesn't have that.
You need some time to know if you can count on someone. Well, we're out of time. My bet's on you. It has to be. I hope to God I'm right.
Welcome to Hudson Piers! I'm not sure what you're looking to get out of this. Everything behind this gate is a goddamn war zone.
So who's in command here?
Captain Benitez was in charge. He was leading up to
The story in this one, guys, is, man, I don't even know where to begin. This is definitely one of those games where you have to dig a little deeper and find things like the echoes to give even more of an idea of what and why things are happening. If you're not into a lot of the extra busy work and side missions that you'll find in your home base or in the safe houses, you're probably going to find yourself a little lost with the Division. Apparently, there was an outbreak of smallpox that all started on a dollar bill. Tons of people in the population got owned, and the Division agents were sent out to try and help with that situation. The writing in this ranges from average to really good. Actually, at times, it's really bad. I remember there was one quest where I went inside this building and had a number of things on fire. It was evident that things were on fire and was told, sources tell us there's a fire in that building. No shit. You don't say. There's this huge Christmas tree and all of this other crap on fire around me, but stuff is on fire. Sources tell you. Did you really need your sources to tell you that? I mean, I'll admit, this isn't really one of those games where I was expecting too much from the story, and it's far, very far from what kept me playing this game for over 80 hours. Sound is definitely something more often than not that is overlooked when we talk about these games, but as someone who loves the way the Division sounds, I feel it's one of the best sounding games in all of gaming. I felt like I had to say something, even if it's just a little something. Just walking around in the city and taking in the atmosphere of New York sounds fantastic. All of the guns sound fantastic. The soundtrack is great, especially when you're playing the story missions and the action begins to ramp up. And those headshots, man, those damn headshots, it's really, really satisfying. People will sometimes refer to games like The Division as looter shooters. I, for one, don't like this name, and I like to call them shoot in loot games. Saying looter shooter indicates that the game allows you to loot bodies before you shoot them. Just sounds dumb. It was one of those games where you play and quickly realize that you were very, very wrong and end up loving it. The visuals are amazing. The gameplay feels right. It has RPG elements that ended up being really, really deep. It's open world. There's an option for PvP that gives you more rewards than anywhere else in the game. I would absolutely recommend this game to anyone that enjoys games like Borderlands or Destiny. None are the same, but they are similar. The Division is the second game I've completed, if you can actually complete a game like The Division in 2017, and a guy can only hope for a sequel.